Well, good Monday morning. I'm Stephen Romo. Thanks for being here. I'm in for Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for being with us on this Labor Day. Happy holiday. We begin this morning in Nevada, where tens of thousands of people are trapped at the Burning Man Festival.
Yeah, a messy situation. Torrential downpours over the weekend led to severe flooding in the remote desert location. It left festival goers stranded in miles of thick mud. The sheriff there says at least one person died at the height of the storm. President Biden has now been briefed on that situation. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has the latest.
Yeah, thousands remain trapped at Burning Man right now after mud from all this rain. In fact, we've now learned that one person died during the height of the storm. This as first responders are now trying to go in to help people get out.
Chaos at Burning Man.
We're kind of screwed here.
Tens of thousands remain stranded after torrential rains led to a total lockdown of the annual festival in the remote Nevada desert. Dust turning to a mucky, messy mud.
The entire place is absolutely just soaked.
Authorities say one person died at the height of the storm. The cause of death under investigation.
I think I could be trapped here for a couple more days.
Suzanne Ford is among those burners still stuck on the playa.
What's it been like?
It's so muddy getting around, like just walking to your tent in the mud is impossible. You know, everybody's putting garbage bags over their shoes or their boots, or they're going barefoot because the mud, you just sink down into the mud. It's a quagmire. It's debilitating.
Organizers telling all attendees to shelter in place and conserve food, water, and fuel. The entrance to the camp and airport closed. Other than emergency services, no vehicles allowed in or out.
I'm actually going to try to make a break for it. They're saying the gates are still closed, but I've got a four-wheel drive car, and I'm going to try to make it out.
Others finding ways to escape, trudging through the muddy desert. Even comedian Chris Rock and DJ Diplo.
It's muddy still.
The performer posting about the ordeal on social media.
We walked 3 miles now. We got, I think, 5 more.
Making it out after hiking for miles and then getting picked up by strangers. The storm system causing problems across the state. In Las Vegas, one person has died and dozens rescued amid heavy rain and flash flooding.
Muddy, muddy, muddy Burning Man.
Back at Black Rock City, people trying to take it all in stride.
Maybe not the Burning Man experience you were expecting?
Well, it's a little bit of like a Raining Man experience.
Instead of a burn, feeling the brunt of a powerful storm.
Well, then our thanks to Liz Kreutz for that report. By the way, if you're not familiar, every year festival goers burn a 40-foot wooden man, and that's the big finale to the festivities. Well, the CEO of Burning Man says that will now happen tonight on the day attendees were originally scheduled to leave.
Well, Brock Pierce, who is an entrepreneur, is among the thousands stuck there. He joins us now. Brock, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us so early, especially where you're at. We appreciate your time this morning. So just tell us, what have you been dealing with? What have you seen firsthand? What are you walking through? What's been happening?
Well, I mean, Burning Man is always filled with obstacles or challenges to overcome. Obviously, this Raining Man, this water has definitely complicated things, and the man didn't burn tonight. The man's hopefully going to burn on Mondays. Everyone's going to be fine. It just weather is doing its thing.
What's the overall sentiment from other festival goers, kind of the mood? I mean, when you were told, and I wonder how the message even got to you, to conserve food, to conserve water, was there ever any type of panic from anyone?
I'm sure there are some people out there that may have had that type of reaction, but generally it's, love thy neighbor, everyone's going to help each other out. There's plenty of water. There's plenty of food. The only thing that might be in short supply is fuel, and generators may run out of power.
How's the communication been to you? How have organizers been doing with kind of keeping everybody safe and getting the message to you about what you should and should not do?
Well, some of us have Starlinks, and that's how we can stay in communication. And so it's hopefully, if it doesn't rain in the morning, things will be dry enough that people can move around a little bit tomorrow. And the biggest issue is a lot of people are not going to be back to work on Tuesday.
Right. What about you? I mean, was your plan to head back, but now are you staying to burn the man tonight?
Well, I have to stay until everything is off, so I'll be out here probably another week.
Wow.
Certainly end of next week at the earliest.
Okay, wow. Well, you will be out there for a while. I hope you have enough food and water for sure. Stay safe. Brock Pierce, we appreciate your time, again, getting up early to speak with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we love that gladiator quote there on your hat, Brock.
I know. Look at that. What was that?
What we do in life echoes in eternity. All right, let's get a look at that forecast for Nevada and for the rest of the country. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman.
That's right. Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Hi there, guys. Great to see you. Well, good news for Brock and everyone else that is stranded there. We're looking at a transitioning forecast to a much sunnier, dry forecast there. A couple showers this morning, and then we're going to look at sunshine, a stretch of sunshine, maybe a chance of showers on Tuesday, but that's a slight chance. They're going to be light. Otherwise, we're looking at lots of sunshine. That storm system has moved off to the west, so now we're looking at the chance for some really heavy rain in portions of the northern plains. We're looking at the chance for localized flooding in parts of the northern plains as well. Another big story, we're looking at some heat on this Labor Day, the unofficial end of summer. We're looking at temperatures into the 90s, into close to 100 degrees in many, many spots. Could see some showers, too, in portions of the lower Mississippi Valley along the Gulf Coast. So this is what we're looking at in terms of that storm system that brought all that rain to Nevada. It's shifting into the Rockies and northern plains. You see those bright colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows. That's where we're going to expect the chance for some really heavy rainfall. Also could see some gusty storms. I'll show you that in just a second. But we could see some wind, some torrential rain, and also some lightning there. Some hail is possible as well. And then as we go throughout Tuesday, it's going to move even further to the east. So now we're looking at some storms into the Mississippi Valley that could bring some large hail, also some wind. It's going to bring some cooler air, too, across the north as it brings some wind there as well. So as far as the severe weather threat on this Labor Day, we're looking at winds gusting over 60 miles per hour, some hail, even the chance of a few tornadoes, although that's on the low side. It's not zero, though. So especially Bismarck to Rapid City, where you see that yellow shading, that's the likeliest spot for seeing any storms. But anywhere from Fargo down to Cheyenne, Casper could see some gusty storms on this Labor Day into the afternoon and evening hours. It moves off to the east, so now we're talking Minneapolis on Tuesday. 5 million people at risk for some really gusty winds. Could bring some down some trees, some power lines. Also some hail and the chance of an isolated tornado or two, especially again where you see that yellow. Heavy rainfall, that's going to be a concern once again. The reds, the oranges, the yellows showing us that where we could see the likeliest spots for localized flooding. Now, a big story on this Labor Day, the heat. We're looking at temperatures into the 90s for many of us. 12 million people impacted from the northern plains, the Midwest, the Great Lakes, into parts of the Mid-Atlantic and also the Northeast. And this is why. We're looking at temperatures soaring into the 90s, 97 degrees today in Sioux City. And guys, we could break records in 25 states today. So this is going to be a big story we're watching not only today, but also tomorrow.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yesterday, hot here.
So hot.
Yeah. All right, Michelle, thank you. See you in a bit.
Yeah.
Well, this morning, state officials in Florida are expected to appeal after a judge ruled against a redistricting plan that was spearheaded by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. The judge going as far as to call the maps, the congressional maps, unconstitutional. NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra joins us now from Miami with more on this. So, Marissa, if you would walk us through this redistricting plan and what it includes and ultimately why that judge said it was unconstitutional.
Stephen, good morning. Yeah, this is a map that was backed and largely spearheaded by Governor Ron DeSantis here in Florida. To your point, this map was implemented in 2022 last year, and so voting rights groups pointed to the fact that there was a representative, a black representative, who did not win re-election after this map was implemented. And what they were saying is that this is carving the black vote into a way that didn't allow them to truly have a voice in elections. Take a listen to yourself. You're going to hear from the co-president of one of the groups that was a plaintiff in the lawsuit.
Redistricting is a really broad brush way to limit the power of minorities if you cut them in small pieces, because you don't get enough in one district to be able to select a representative of their choice. And that is exactly what happened in just the old District 5. So where you draw the lines really, really, really matters.
and that was Cecil Schoon with the League of Women Voters. We understand, as we talked about on Saturday, just this weekend, the judge ruled in their favor. So, something they're considering a big win. But when I asked what's next, she said that there's still a lot of steps to be taken, especially given the fact that it does seem this will head to an appeal.
Yeah, and this fight not over yet. When you talk about this appeal, what are we expecting there? What's the potential fallout from that?
Yeah, so we haven't heard back yet from all of the parties on the other side that we've reached out to. We've reached out to Governor Ron DeSantis's camp. And while there hasn't been a public response, we do know that the Florida Secretary of State, Cord Byrd, told Politico that he, quote, disagrees with the judge's decision this weekend, that the state will appeal the ruling to the state Supreme Court. This was expected. But if they do this, as we mentioned, this will head to the Florida Supreme Court. But their deadline to do so is today, Stephen.
All right, Marissa, we know these allegations of gerrymandering, it's not just something we're seeing in Florida. Georgia also getting a whole lot of attention for this issue. What's the latest there?
Yeah, so redistricting is a nationwide topic right now, and particularly in southern states like Alabama, like Georgia, like Louisiana. And so what's interesting to your point there is that this week a trial is beginning, actually tomorrow, regarding this exact same topic here, redistricting. And there are voting rights groups who are claiming that the map also doesn't allow black voters to have a true voice and true power in the elections. And that trial begins tomorrow, Stephen.
All right, more to come. We'll be watching. Marissa Parra, thanks so much.
Well, Labor Day is often seen as the unofficial start of the presidential campaign season, even though it probably seems like we've been seeing this for a while. Well, today, a number of Republican candidates are campaigning in the key primary state of New Hampshire. They are looking to cut into former President Trump's wide lead in the polls. Look at these numbers. A recent Wall Street Journal poll conducted after the first GOP debate and also the latest indictment. It gives Trump a 46-point lead over his closest rival, still Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns joins us now from Salem, New Hampshire with more. Hey, Dasha, good morning. Good to see you. So a number of candidates have been in New Hampshire all weekend doing several events a day for some of them. Tell us who's there and what can we expect to see today?
Yeah, Savannah, we've had a lot of unofficial starts. We keep finding those milestones. Now it's really getting going. Now it's really getting going. It's been going for a while. It's going to keep going. And right now, though, is a really great moment for folks coming to New Hampshire. People are off for Labor Day. There are barbecues. There are parades. And these candidates are coming through here. They are trying to convince these voters, and there are going to be a lot of GOP primary voters out here scouting out these candidates, that they are able to win. Because voters are looking for people who align with their values, of course. But right now, you showed that poll there. There are folks who might be looking for a Trump alternative. And one thing that I keep hearing from people over and over is that they are looking for someone that can actually make this happen. And when you see those numbers, you need somebody who can really make that argument and who can convince voters that they are the person who can take this home in these critical early states like New Hampshire, like Iowa, like South Carolina. And Vivek Ramaswamy, who's been having some momentum lately, was asked in a town hall recently about whether or not he might be running just to be Trump's vice president, because he's been sort of so arms wide open and very complimentary of former President Trump. And here's the answer that he gave.
So, no, I'm not looking for a number 2 position. I think that it's just the way you're going to make contributions to this country. That's the way I think Donald Trump and I probably share something in common. Neither of us do well in a number 2 position. I do expect him to be my advisor. And I would say probably in my first year, probably my most important mentor in the White House. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I want to understand where the bodies are buried. I want to get that head start.
So there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on these candidates in this season. Vivek Ramaswamy very open to those questions. Others should be expecting similar tough questions from these primary voters who are taking this really seriously, Savannah.
Absolutely, Dasha. So Vivek obviously had quite a presence at that first Republican debate. We saw him get into it with quite a few people, one of those being the former Vice President Mike Pence, and Ramaswamy clashed quite a bit. What is Pence saying right now about his rival?
Yeah, not just Pence, but Chris Christie, Nikki Haley. Look, what we saw on that debate stage has really been spilling over onto the campaign trail. Those criticisms of Ramaswamy and his relative inexperience compared to some of the more established candidates is continuing. Take a listen to what Pence had to say.
I don't have a problem with Vivek. I met him a couple of years ago. He's a good man, a good family man, but he's just wrong on foreign policy. Candidly, this is a bit of a pattern for Vivek. He kind of goes one direction, then goes back another direction. I don't know how we fully back and then say that there's a limit to what our military involvement would be defending Israel in an attack by Iran.
Ramaswamy wearing some of those criticisms from his fellow opponents as a badge of honor, saying this means that I'm really getting up there in the polls, that I'm somebody to be paying attention to. And he's not wrong. Voters are listening to what he has to say. Whether or not attacks like that have an impact, we'll have to see over the coming months, guys.
Absolutely. So, Dasha, as I mentioned, and as our viewers have been able to see up in the corner, you are in New Hampshire, obviously this key primary state. It's always somewhere that we see a lot of this activity. I know we're also hearing from the New Hampshire governor. What are we hearing right now about the state of this race?
Well, so Governor Chris Sununu talked to our colleague Chuck Todd on Meet the Press over the weekend, and he really hammered home his big concern about what might happen and the concern that a lot of voters have as well about the potential for another Biden versus Trump outcome here, another Biden versus Trump election. And he is concerned that this is something that the vast majority of the country does not want. He's predicting that's not what's going to happen, but a lot has to change in the coming months in order for that not to be the case. Of course, he's saying that especially in states like New Hampshire and Iowa and South Carolina, there really needs to be consolidation behind one of these primary candidates. And that's what these states are meant to do, right? So he's hoping that New Hampshire will be one of the states that helps create a sort of two-person race here, Trump versus one alternative, rather than this wide field that we have right now.
All right, Tasha Burns out there on the trail for us on this unofficial, start, middle, who knows, of this campaign trail. Happy Labor Day. Thanks, Tasha.
Well, it's the start of another pivotal week for the investigations into election interference in Georgia. Some of the defendants charged are expected to be arraigned on Wednesday, but former President Trump will not be among them. He waived his right to appear after pleading not guilty last week. NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney joins us now for more on this. So, Ken, former Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani waived his arraignment on Friday, but there are several others who have not done that, most notably former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. So how significant is that, and is he at all likely to waive his right to appear?
Good morning, Stephen. He may well. It's not terribly significant. It's a formality. An arraignment is simply a reading of the charges, gives the defendants a chance to enter a plea. In Georgia, you don't have to appear, and so obviously Mr. Trump did not. It's not clear whether Mr. Meadows will. One of the big questions really surrounding Mark Meadows in this whole case is really does appear that he could be an important witness for the special counsel in the very similar case in Washington, and yet he's charged criminally in the Georgia case. How does that all play out? Are the two prosecution teams talking? We're not likely to get an answer on that this week, but that's the big looming question.
And speaking of Meadows, he's been trying to move his case to a federal court, this Georgia case. Where does that stand? And do we know why Trump isn't really trying to do that?
Right. He's trying to do that because he's arguing he was acting as a federal official at the time. We are awaiting a ruling in that matter by a federal judge in Georgia. And there is every chance that Donald Trump will follow that path. His team may be waiting to see how the judge rules in the Meadows case. But Trump is his own animal in this regard. He's absolutely going to make that argument that he was acting as the president and therefore can't be charged in Georgia. As he did in New York, he lost that one. So we'll see how it works out in Georgia.
And Ken, as if there weren't already enough cases to try to follow, we are looking at another one. The one on Friday, a federal appeals court denied the Department of Justice request to block Trump from sitting for a deposition on those lawsuits filed by former FBI employees Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. So what's going on there? Is he going to be deposed for this one?
It's really interesting. He may well be, and viewers may be wondering, why is the Biden Department of Justice trying to keep Donald Trump from having a deposition? Well, it's because the Justice Department represents the interests of the presidency, and they generally don't like civil litigants to be able to come in and demand to depose a former president. They argue against that. In this case, those two FBI agents are arguing they were unfairly treated. In Strzok's case, unfairly terminated. In Page's case, text messages released, she's arguing it was a violation violation of her privacy rights. And it does look like Donald Trump will be deposed in that case. Whether he had anything to do with how those people were disciplined and fired remains to be seen, but we may get to learn with Donald Trump under oath, guys.
All right, Ken Delaney, thanks so much.
Well, turning to tennis now, and Coco Gauff is advancing into the latter stages of the U.S. Open. The 19-year-old American beat Danish star Caroline Wozniacki by 2-1. She'll now face the former French Open winner Jelena Ostapenko in tomorrow's quarterfinal. I saw Coco on Friday night. I went to the Open. She is just so fantastic, so good to watch. But, you know, Caroline, she's a mom. She had a kid she has 2 now, but she had less than a year ago she had a baby. And she's also been to the U.S. Open. I think it was in 3 different decades as a teenager, then as the world #1, and now as a mom of 2. So also just so impressive. But
super impressive.
I know. Yeah. They were both great. So, but exciting for Coco.
Very much so.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.